The holidays are known for a lot of things, and stress is one of them. You've got the gifts, the family parties, to just keeping up with normal life. It's a nonstop season. So we brought in Dr. Ziegler. He's here from Advanced Health Center to talk about how to cope with all this stress. I just named a few of them, but they could keep on going.
Oh, I can. You know, and I want to get people prepared for the holidays, and I know this can be a stressful time, and it can have a gigantic effect on our body and really what we do through the rest of our year. So we want to get stress under control, and we want to give people more types of management tools to really help them control stress. You
know, I want to hear from you on this. People say I'm stressed, they feel stressed, but when do, I mean, it's hard to self-diagnose, but when do you know that that stress is somewhere, you know, at a high level that might turn into something more serious like depression?
Sure, and we see a lot of types of symptoms at our office. We see headaches, we see indigestion, heart disease, infertility. So there's definitely types of lab tests we can start to do to check cortisol levels, but let's go back. Stress is normal. You know, there's a part of your brain called the sympathetic nervous system, and that controls stress. And stress under a very short period of time is normal. It keeps us alert. It keeps us sharp. It moves blood to our muscles. So we need stress.
But just not too much.
Correct. It's really long periods of stress, chronically for long times, and that's where we run into a problem.
And here's some common things that people talk about. They know stress is bothering a little bit too much. Stress and hair loss.
Right,
That's a telltale sign.
Right. What happens, stress causes an inflammation marker, and these white blood cells will attack a hair follicle. We call it alopecia, and you'll see balding, hair loss. But you have to remember, stress is controlled in your brain. There's a part of your brain called the hypothalamus that delivers a message to the adrenal glands, and those adrenal glands are these little pea-shaped types of glands that sit above the kidneys, and they secrete a hormone, and that hormone's called cortisol. And cortisol is needed, but too much of cortisol can cause us a major problem.
That's when the trouble can start, and that kind of goes into the next one. We've all been there. When you're stressed, you eat, and there goes the weight gain.
Right. Cortisol is a big thing with belly fat. We talk about cortisol a lot. We still need cortisol, but very little amount. The time of cortisol in your bloodstream is very, very important too. We never really want it to peak too high in the morning. We want it higher in the morning, and less in the afternoon. But cortisol is very, very important. It helps control our blood pressure.
What kind of role does vitamin D play in all of this? Because you hear that a lot. Many studies cite that.
Correct. We echo vitamin D all the time. I really want people to get their vitamin D tested, and you can test it in your blood. But what happens is, so let me kind of explain to you what vitamin D. It turns the cells on. It's the kind of the life of a cell. Sunlight hits your skin, then that light is then turns the vitamin D on. It goes through your liver and kidneys and helps all those cells come alive. And we need a certain amount of it. If we get very low, you're right, we start to see problems with depression, anxiety, cardiovascular disease. Vitamin D is very important, and we want to make sure we get it checked, and there's ways to actually implement it into our diet or actually inject it in.
Something to do with sunny days.
Right. I mean, there's
feel better.
Right. There's a term called seasonal affective disorder, because seasons like this, where the days become very short, most people don't get enough vitamin D.
And it's darker earlier.
Correct. And when we start to see that, sometimes depression starts to set in. So I'm a big fan, again, make sure you get that vitamin D tested.
Okay, that's something I think a lot of people don't think of. What'd you bring here on the table?
Well, I brought a few things. I brought what we call a salivary hormone kit. This is a simple way for us to kind of see where your cortisol is, kind of talking about cortisol
now,
again.
Can you buy this yourself?
Well, we really recommend you come to a physician. If you're feeling very stressed, like ourselves, we can give you these tests. You will spit into a tube, it's saliva, and we can actually monitor and see how much cortisol's in your system, and then we can tell you other ways to manage this better once we know exactly what we're up against.
Okay, what'd you bring in the middle over here?
Well, we brought some herbal teas. Dr. Weno does acupuncture and oriental medicine, which is another great tool in our office, and it helps really relax people. So he does a lot of herbal medicine. And these teas can be extremely helpful in calming our symptomatic nervous system down. So again, I've also brought liquid vitamin D drops, things that people can implement.
Now, someone who's going to buy that, you know, just wherever at the regular store, how much should they be taking per day, if it was in drops or even in just pills?
Great. You know, how it's being transported into the cell is important. I like what they call a medium chain triglyceride, about 2,000 to 5,000, depending on how low you are on the vitamin D.
Okay.
I like it being dropped on your tongue because, it gets transported much easier.
It's immediate, it's faster.
Right, and those are things I like. And you have to be careful because since it's not always really well regulated, you might not get a pure vitamin D3, and you want the active form of vitamin D.
And too much can be too much here?
Too much can be toxic, but again, that's very rare.
Okay.
So, but again, we don't want people drinking these bottles. 1 or 2 drops is sufficient.
Don't go crazy with it. Oh, lastly, you have another tea over there. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, you know, chamomile teas are also very good for calming down the system. I really like teas. And Dr. Winnow, again, does a lot of herbal medicine that will help people really calm down the symptomatic type of nervous system.
All well, very rounded here. Lots of different choices. Doctor, good to see you. Thanks for your help. We're going to all need it, that's for sure.
It's good to see you.
All right, still to come here on the show, Honest Aid might be worth more than you think. Find out how some people are making a fortune 1 penny at a time, if you can believe it. Plus, we'll be making some of the tastiest cocktails of the season right here. Find out what these 2 guys have up their sleeves when it comes to cocktails. They're ready. Party's starting. Just a couple minutes. Stay with us.